All right, everybody, welcome back to the Gall's Deep podcast. We got another good episode for you today. I believe it's going to be a little spicy, perhaps, in our opinions. So we're just going to get that out there in our opinions. So with that being said, we're going to get right into it. This episode is going to be about Erika Kirk's biggest fails. I think we got top 10, don't we? Top 10 or 10 in our opinion. So I'm pretty much going to sit back and just enjoy the ride here. This girl's going to take it away and she's going to unload on you guys. So here we go.
So I don't know about unloading, but like many of you, I've been following just the investigation that so many independent journalists and investigators are doing into what's going on since Charlie Kirk's assassination, trying to get to the bottom of what really happened and um, getting justice for Charlie. But also, one of the things that everybody's got their eyes on is Erika Kirk. And, all eyes are on her and how she is navigating the world in the aftermath of Charlie's assassination. So, today I want to talk about Erika Kirk's biggest fails. So, she keeps hitting stumbling blocks along the way. I know some people have different opinions on this, and that there is a segment of conservatives and other people who are not, who have a really favorable opinion of Erika Kirk, thinks she's doing great, praise her, putting her up on a pedestal. There are, whisperings out there about, is she going to be running for office? Is she going to take some kind of a prominent political position? And I think that would be a disaster. Personally, that's my opinion. I hope that doesn't happen. She unfortunately doesn't have any support from me. I feel like she's done nothing but trip over her own feet since Charlie's assassination. And so I have today 10, in my opinion, 10 of Erika's biggest fails since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Now, these are not in any particular order. These are just the ones that came to mind. So, of course, I would love to hear your opinion on where the other places where Erika has failed and maybe what order you would put these in and how important you think they are, and how detrimental they've been to her image. And so, go
Now,
ahead.
just real quick, these you'd mentioned earlier before we started recording that these are her biggest fails
Post,
post
yes.
the Charlie Kirk event.
This is uh,
So since September
right,
10th,
right.
11th, 10th, yeah, 10th.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I just want to preface that this is post September 10th, not anything before. We might have to make some other videos about that. That could be a whole nother episode. But this is post Charlie Kirk's untimely event. So, anyways, number one.
All right. So first one is this one is the first one that came to mind is the Bari Weiss interview. I just don't think that interview did Erika any favors. Of course, it's the interview with the glare heard round the world, when Bari Weiss asked her about what she would like to say to the conspiracy theorists out there and the people who are questioning her and questioning what happened after Charlie was assassinated, and Erika's very intense gaze with her shockingly blue eyes. You know, definitely not her most sincere moment. And we've done another video on how she's unbelievable and she's basically just a terrible
Yeah, so check
actress.
that out if you haven't.
So yeah, definitely look at that. But I think that the Bari Weiss interview didn't do for Erika what she was hoping it would do for her. I don't think that it ingratiated her to anyone who was questioning their opinion on her, or wanted to know a little bit more about her. I think that for those who love her, they will continue to love her, and for those who don't have a very high opinion of her, it just kind of solidified our opinions of her and just really amplified the fact that she's a bad actress, and she's not sincere. So, and that's the opinion I got, or the impression I got from watching Erika's interview with Bari Weiss. The second one is the cease and desist letter that TPUSA sent to Wolves in Finance. So if you are not familiar with Wolves in Finance,
Definitely check out his content.
check out his content. He is a licensed CPA. I think that he practices in Arizona, and he is very well versed in corporate tax law and tax accounting. And so he's done some investigations into the finances of TPUSA and made some videos that where he was questioning whether or not there was fraud going on at TPUSA. And he asserted some of his opinions that there was some fraud, that there were some missed tax filings and possible misappropriation of funds, or some ways in which the organization was structuring its business structures and financial distributions that seemed a little bit questionable. And those were his opinions that he was putting out on his channel. He's an expert in that area, and so completely reasonable for him to see some red flags that were coming up with some of their tax filings. I think that TPUSA handled this really poorly, and with Erika Kirk being this acting CEO, of TPUSA since Charlie Kirk's assassination, ultimately the buck stops with her. She is 100% responsible for the actions of the organization that she is leading. Anybody who leads an organization knows that the CEO is ultimately responsible for everything that the organization and its employees do. So, that being said, so she, TPUSA sent a cease and desist letter to Wolves in Finance. Essentially, that's the first step when you're planning to file a lawsuit against somebody or sue them for defamation, is that you file a cease and desist to get them to stop doing the thing that you don't want them doing. I think a better way for them to have handled this was for them to send a letter to Zach, that is the guy who has the Wolves in Finance channel, and let him know, hey, you've said some things in one of your videos. They weren't completely accurate. These are the facts surrounding those situations. If you could please update your video or make an update to that video, letting your viewers know that this is actually a different situation than what you reported it to be. There's a much, much more professional and calm way to handle that. And so I don't think that filing that cease and desist or sending that cease and desist did anything to help Erika Kirk's image or help the image of TPUSA, which more and more is looking like an organization that does have some shady business structure, some shady financing, and definitely some questionable leadership and operations, in my opinion. So it is not an organization that I will be sending any money to, because I don't like the funds that I earn. So with my hard work being mismanaged and used for shady and dishonest means. So in my opinion, so I wouldn't be sending any money to them. My third biggest fail of Erika Kirk since Charlie was assassinated is the narrative surrounding the neck of steel. This was an early comment of Erika's, and this is an idea and assertion that she and other TPUSA individuals were perpetuating out in a narrative they were perpetuating out in the social media space, is that the reason why there was no exit wound in Charlie's neck is that he just was so healthy and so strong that he had really strong vertebrae in his neck. And so they didn't do anything to dispel this myth. They kind of let this this narrative, just kind of marinate and continue circulating out in the environment. And it really just doesn't hold any water. So basically what this comment led to was dozens of firearms experts, ballistics experts, social media influencers shooting pounds and pounds and pounds of meat, ruining beautiful roasts, shooting cow femurs, using firearms that fire 30-06 rounds. I'm not a firearms expert, but I am familiar enough with firearms to know that as soon as I learned that there was no exit wound, I knew that the narrative that Charlie had been shot with a 30-06 round was not accurate, that somebody was perpetuating information that was not consistent with reality. And in my opinion, that was a false narrative that should not have been allowed to continue marinating. I think that it would have been much more admirable for Erika to come out and say, we're not sure why, even if they're still certain that Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck with a 30-06. Come out and just say, I don't know. Don't say something like, oh, well, he just must have had really strong vertebrae and it stopped the bullet, when we know that that wasn't the case. And so it really made her look dishonest right off the bat. And that is a narrative that she still continues to support. And, I don't really hear a lot of her coming out and saying that so much now. I think that she may realize that it makes her sound stupid, in my opinion. But anyway, so I think that that was a big fail on her part. She really should not have let that idea be perpetuated out in the media, so that it created so much controversy and so many people jumping on that, trying to dispel that. So anyway, fail number 3 for Erika Kirk. Fail number
Number 4.
Fail number 4, the mass firings at TPUSA that have happened recently over the last couple of months. These information about these have just recently been coming out, but I think that nothing makes an organization look worse than when they're doing mass firings. And I don't think that these firings were because TPUSA is hurting for money. I believe they've taken in over $150 million in revenue since Charlie's assassination. Actually, more than that. I know that the figures are much higher. I don't have the exact accurate numbers there, but TPUSA is not hurting for money. They've got donations coming in from all over the place. I don't think that, if they were at risk of going under, they were losing donors left and right, then maybe if it was for financial reasons. But I think that the mass firings really made TPUSA look like either that they were fearful, that their reputation was being harmed, that they were suspicious of their employees, or that they're just really a heartless organization. So for an organization that purports to be, such a strong Christian organization and, spreading the Christian message out there and the message of conservatism, that, hard work pays off. It certainly doesn't pay off if you're a TPUSA employee, because those TPUSA employees were working, 20 plus hour days, according to some of them who have put information in their stories out on YouTube and other social media platforms. So, it's really hard to say that these folks that were getting fired weren't pulling their weight and doing their jobs. So I think that the mass firings really just make TPUSA look suspicious, and they make Erika Kirk look like a heartless CEO. So I think that that was a major fail on her part. Number 5 major fail of Erika's since Charlie was assassinated was the Zoom meeting that she had after Charlie's memorial. So this Zoom meeting recording has recently been released by a TPUSA employee who participated in the meeting and recorded the meeting. And so they released their meeting recording. It's been commented on by several YouTube influencers, people, independent journalists, comedians like JP Sears. He certainly got
Oh
a lot
yeah,
of flack
he
for
did.
it. He did a great job parodying the meeting. And I think that sometimes comedy is a great lens for analyzing situations and really getting to the bottom of what's going on. So that being said, I think that that Zoom meeting was a huge fail. So in that Zoom meeting, Erika was basically celebrating merch sales and voter registrations that took place during and immediately after Charlie Kirk's memorial. And after celebrating merch sales and revenue and voter registrations, then she told her staff to get back to work and work hard. And if they're having any problems, that they can use their PTO and take time off, which, I mean, yes, technically true, but I think that it would have been more heartfelt for her to say, we understand that a lot of you are still grieving. If you need time off, we understand. Please let your supervisors know, and we'll make sure that we can accommodate you in the best way possible. Not, we'll just put in for PTO, and you can take your company assigned PTO for that time off that you need. After so many of the staff worked tirelessly for weeks on end to pull off that massive event of Charlie Kirk's memorial. So I just think that that was a huge fail. It really made her look like all she cares about is money. It really just made her look like that's all she cares about. So I think that that was a big fail on her part. It doesn't do any favors for her image. Number 6 fail of Erica's is her inappropriate hugs. Man, this
Yes, we have done a
girl.
video on that too, so go back and check that one out. We did it.
So, for somebody who comes across as so cold and heartless, if you're a person that she thinks can get her to the next level, or you're a person of prominence or influence, in my opinion, Erika sure will give you a hug, unless you're Jesse Waters. So that was
That
also
was
in our
awkward.
video. That was also an awkward hug, but not for the same reasons. But, Erika's, full frontal hugs for Donald Trump at the memorial service of JD Vance, at another TPUSA event, even, hugging Megyn Kelly, just these, maybe
Oh,
she's
yeah.
a hugger.
Forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, like the JD Vance hug is probably the worst one because it's literally
That
full
was,
breast to
yeah,
chest, pelvis to pelvis hug. If a woman hugged my husband like that, she and I would have to have a talk. So anyway, especially in leather pants and a tight t-shirt.
to me, it was
But
just the hand
the hand
behind
behind the
that neck
head,
or head.
yes,
That
that was just
a
really
little
that's some
intimate or something. A
body
little too
language
intimate for a
that's
hug.
excessively intimate for a woman and a man who should not be intimately acquainted with each other. So the inappropriate hugging, definitely a big fail for Erika. It definitely got people talking about her, questioning her relationship to the people that she was hugging and what is the nature of that relationship. I know it's definitely created controversy for JD Vance and Usha Vance, and lots of talk out there about, was there something going on that was inappropriate between JD Vance and Erika Kirk? And I'm sure that that was probably unwarranted and unwanted attention in that direction. I can't imagine that if I was Usha Vance, I would have felt really happy about that situation. So, anyways, moving on to fail number
Okay,
7.
before you start number
Uh-huh.
7,
Go ahead.
I'm just going to preface and put a little disclaimer out there. I know nothing about style. If you've read number 7, I know nothing about style. This is all our opinion. I'm going to sit back.
So, so fail number 7. I think Erika not hiring a stylist was a huge fail. She has made comments about how she doesn't have a stylist when she has fielded questions about her style and what she's wearing. She's blatantly said, "Well, I don't have a stylist." Well, maybe she should get one. And Erika Kirk is a woman of means. She's a woman who's not unfamiliar with fashion and modeling. She's former Miss Arizona. She's done some amateur modeling. I'm sure that she has connections to people who could help her pick out an outfit that's appropriate for the occasion. And I think that that's one thing that she has failed at time and time again. This is my opinion. Of course, I'm wearing a t-shirt right now. So, but I think it's appropriate for the occasion. So, but that being said, first one at the not necessarily press conference, but the speech that she gave in Charlie's office a couple days after Charlie was assassinated, and she's wearing a white suit. Typically a white suit with black, like a black tank top underneath. Like you think of that something that's going to be something that you wear to like a spring or summertime event. It wasn't winter white. White's not typically a color that we reserve for mourning. And I think that this is one of the things that really started setting people off about how Erika's mourning process is not consistent with social expectations. It may be how she mourns because apparently everyone mourns differently. But it definitely started raising red flags when she's coming out and she's in a white suit. The next thing was, her the lace pantsuit that she wore on Megyn Kelly's the interview with Megyn Kelly. It was black lace. Black lace, technically a material often used by grieving widows. However, a sheer lace pantsuit, probably not the best choice. Did it look terrible on her? No, it didn't look terrible. She's a good looking lady. She has a nice figure. Just not what I would have
Yeah,
chosen for a woman who is a grieving widow, and definitely not something that I would have chosen for being on stage, especially with the way lighting works and things like that. It basically made her look like she was wearing a sheer kind of lingerie style outfit on national television.
For a
The
different occasion.
for a different occasion. And so, other outfits that she wore, of course, the gold glitter pantsuit
Yeah.
that she wore to America Fest. I don't think it was a very flattering suit on her. I think oftentimes blondes look washed out in gold. They need a different color. Um, it fit her fine, but it kind of made her look like she was hosting The Price is Right or something like that. Like she was hosting a game show, not like she is the
That's a good point.
CEO of, a multi-$100 million company that is a huge conservative political organization with multiple branches. I mean, it kind of made her look like she was a circus act. And so I just don't think that
Ooh,
that made
that's a
her,
hot take.
I don't think that that did her any favors, and it's definitely garnered a lot of criticism for her. Other options that I just don't think were great were the black leather pants and the white T-shirt. The famous outfit that she was wearing when she inappropriately hugged JD Vance. Grieving widows not typically known for wearing tight black leather pants and white T-shirts. So not saying that she has to be in full mourning gear 24/7, but maybe if she had consulted a stylist could have helped her pick out outfits that were a little bit more appropriate for the occasions and for an individual who is a CEO of a huge political organization. The last one that I also think was really unflattering, and I think that you should look this one up, and I think that most people will agree with me, is the gray sweater cape outfit, the two piece. I think it was a dress and a cape that she wore to the New York Times Deal Book Summit. I think that, with her hair down
Should have had some of
and
these pulled up.
her hair looks undone, her outfit is drab charcoal gray. It's not flattering. It actually kind of looks like she's just wearing an old gray blanket on stage. And so something like a nicely tailored suit in a color that's complementary for her, like a blue or something like that, would have been a much better choice. So I think that, big fail number 7 of Erika Kirk's not hiring a stylist. Um, maybe she should talk to one. I'm sure that she could probably hire somebody who could help her pick out outfits that make a little bit more sense for the events that she's participating in. Fail number
No?
8.
Oh, okay.
Fail number 8 that I think Erika Kirk has made since Charlie Kirk was assassinated is not controlling the narrative. She has been allowing TPUSA employees or participants, Blake Neff, Andrew Colvett, and Tyler Boyer, kind of go out on their own out in the media and they just kind of say what seems like whatever they want.
And they
There's
don't even seem to
no,
be on the same page
they don't even
sometimes.
seem to be on the same page. There's no consistent narrative. There's no consistent idea or perspective or image that they're all working on trying to portray, which I think is really interesting because I think Andrew Colvett is supposed to be her PR person. So I would think that somebody who's in charge of PR, public relations, would be helping to craft an image a little bit more precisely for the whole team to be on board as they're going out into public and speaking about what's going on with TPUSA, what's going on with the investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination, what's going on with some of the controversies that a lot of independent journalists and media personalities are discussing right now, but they're kind of all just shooting from the hip and then doing damage control in the aftermath. The other thing that I think is really interesting is how many social media influencers like Alex Jones, Laura Loomer, Tim Pool, and Gary from Paramount Tactical are out there kind of advocating for Erika Kirk, advocating for TPUSA. I mean, that's definitely their right. They have their opinions or they have their talking points, whatever the case is. In my opinion, it seems like they've been, given talking points to discuss and go out and attack people who criticize Erika Kirk or TPUSA. That's just my opinion. But maybe they're coming up with those things on their own. I'm not sure about that. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But it really just makes it look like Erika Kirk has a group of henchmen and women around her whose responsibility is to attack people who criticize her and create confusion um, when it comes to the goings on of the company, when it comes to what's going on with the investigation into Charlie's assassination and the legal proceedings with regard to the trial. And so I just think that that is a huge fail, that she's not, there's no controlled narrative. There's no controlled narrative. So the lack of control is actually feeding the flames and feeding the fires. It's great because we have plenty to talk about. I mean, I love listening to Baron Coleman and Candace Owens and Coach Colin and listening to their takes on what's going on in their investigations into Erika's background and Wolves of Finance, of course, looking into the finances of TPUSA and their tax filings. It's all very interesting content for me to watch. If TPUSA controlled the narrative better, then nobody would be talking about them. It would be a non-issue. And so I think that this is a big fail on Erika's part. Um, fail number 9, refusing to provide an alibi for where she was on September 8th. I think this is really, really challenging because Candace Owens and Baron Coleman have really been kind of digging into Erika Kirk's whereabouts in those days leading up to Charlie Kirk's assassination. Charlie was overseas. I think he was in Korea doing some advocacy over there and speaking to people. And so he, kind of got back into town shortly before his event at UVU. And it would seem that, while he was gone, maybe some things were happening that are not very complimentary to Erika Kirk's image. She hasn't really come out and given any kind of evidence to just talk about where she was and what she was doing during that time. Nothing that's verifiable. And nobody's really coming out to kind of support that. So I think that, if she doesn't have anything to hide, then there's no reason to not come out and say, hey, I was at home in my sweatpants. I rented a movie on Amazon Prime. This is my receipt for the movie I rented. This is the receipt for the pizza I ordered, whatever that thing was. So even if she was home all day and didn't do anything, like, why not just come out and say, hey, you know what, all of you people questioning where I was, my motives, my intentions, my involvement in the assassination of my husband, here, I have the receipts right here, so stop talking about it. But her lack of response to that issue is feeding that even more. And so I love it. Like I said, the content is really entertaining for me. I love a good investigation. I love a good puzzle. And I love solving problems. And I love hearing how other social media influencers and how independent journalists are digging into this and giving me really interesting content to consume. So in the meantime, Erika, like, maybe you should consider coming up with an alibi. If you want people to stop talking, don't give them something to talk about. And then fail number 10, I think that Charlie Kirk's memorial was a big fail, and on Erika's part. And not because there weren't people there who were sincerely paying tribute to Charlie Kirk and what he meant to them and his influence on young conservatives and, the way that he influenced the 2024 election and all of these things and all of his efforts and work that he did in the conservative movement. I don't think it was a fail because of that. I think it was a fail because from Erika Kirk's perspective, because it made her look bad. I think that she looked fake. She looked insincere. She talked about, upcoming elections in her eulogy to her husband, never once mentioning his family, never once mentioning how much his death is going to impact her and her children and how sad she is. I think that the fireworks and the pyrotechnics, looking back on it now, I think more of a somber event would have been more of a tribute and would have been more consistent with people's expectations. And of course, I watched the memorial. I think that, there were some really beautiful things that a lot of people said about Charlie Kirk. at the memorial. And I think that Charlie, if he heard those things, would be honored to hear a lot of the really nice things that people said about him and about his influence. But I think that when it comes to Erika Kirk's image and the image of TPUSA, looking back on it now, I think that was the first step in a series of missteps on Erika Kirk's path since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And so this is a pretty long list, 10 of Erika's biggest fails since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I think that, these are the things that I look at that, every time something happens, and there's some news that comes out, some new development in the investigation into his death, into the goings on of TPUSA, into the financial or business operations of the organization, the donors, the way that they are infiltrating schools and really spreading their influence across the country. These, every time there's a misstep, it's just one more nail in the coffin that makes me feel like Erika Kirk, in my opinion, is not an honest person. I don't think that she is, I don't want to say she's a bad actor per se, but she's not a person that I would put my trust in. I think that that's probably the easiest way to put it. She's an individual that I would not put my trust in. She's an individual that I would not want representing me. I don't find her to be honest. I don't find her to be sincere. I don't find her to really have a direction. I find her to be unprofessional. So I think that, those are her biggest fails over the last 6 months. Of course, I would love to dive into some of her biggest fails prior to that. And that may be a topic of conversation in another episode. But I would like to know what you guys think. So these are my top 10 biggest fails. What do you think are the top 10 things or anything else that should be added to this list that are, behaviors, circumstances, instances, sayings, things that Erika Kirk has done that make you, question her and what kind of a person she really is.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. So, and or if you have differences of opinions.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. Prove me wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. Again, these are just our opinions and how we feel about the matter. So anything else? All right. There you have it, guys. There's our Mrs. Top 10 Erika's biggest fails. So make sure you like and subscribe and all the good stuff. And we'll catch you on the next episode.